We've all seen the TikToks and the Reels and the YouTube Shorts and the full-length YouTube saying, use this technique or tool to manifest in 0.32 seconds. I kind of jest, but I kind of don't. That is how a lot of these videos are framed. And if you've seen any of my content before, or other people may have also said the same thing, I just need to remind you, it's not the tools or techniques that are manifesting, it is who you are deciding you are. Okay, I have a video on all you have to do to manifest, which I'll put on the end card for you. But today I wanted to talk a bit more about the purpose of these tools and techniques if you don't have to do those things to manifest, by giving you an example of a mini manifestation that I shared in the Cheat Code Academy group. And I say mini manifestation in quotation marks because nothing is bigger or smaller than anything else. It's the emotion and meaning that we attach to things that make them feel big or small to us. That may be dependent on what society tells us or our previous experiences or the things that we're conditioned to believe growing up, whatever it might be. Those things really don't matter, because in reprogramming the way you see and feel about things now, you are actually undoing the things that happened in the past without having to delve into those or keep one foot in the old reality that you don't want to keep experiencing, especially if they were shitty circumstances, which, I mean, if they're leading to limiting beliefs that mean that you can't have or hold on to the things that you want, they probably aren't great circumstances. Yes, I have some makeup on today. I didn't bother the last few videos, but the sunglass whiteness around my eyes compared to the tan on my face, which I am wearing sunscreen. I don't know why my face is tanning. It was really bothering me, so I evened it out with a bit of makeup. Do you feel special? You should. You should, because the second I walk out of this air conditioned room, this is all going to melt off. Now, I do share more success stories in the Cheat Code Academy group than I will on public platforms, especially when it comes to things that mean a lot to me. Not that I've shared anything too big on there so far, but the doors are currently closed to new members of the Cheat Code Academy. If you do want to be notified of the next intake, you can do so via the link below in the description. It's a no obligation to join waitlist. You will just be notified via email when the next intake is happening, and then you can decide whether or not you'd like to join us. It's not a cult, I promise. It's not a cult. Just so you know as well, this month's workshop was the Find Your Feel Good workshop. Eventually, there will be a nervous system regulation related workshop and a self concept workshop, and then those will be bundled together and sold as one workshop outside of the academy. But I don't know when I'll be doing those workshops, just FYI. I've had questions about when I will be releasing like a course or a workshop on the cheat code, the cheat codes. So there's that information.
Before I get into the video, hey legends, I'm Cerise. I'm your self-agency and manifestation mentor, and I help you decipher the nuances of manifestation from both the law of assumption and the law of attraction, because there's a lot of information out there that's either overcomplicated or oversimplified, and I've learned a lot of things the hard way, so you don't have to. Because we're all about manifesting smarter, not harder on this channel. As always, all the ways that I can guide you, from my freebie, the 22-page ebook, all the way to one-to-one coaching and everything in between, like my workshops and, of course, the Cheat Code Academy that I just mentioned, are linked in the description below.
So I'm going to read it off my screen because my phone is currently lighting the side of my face, not very well, mind you, but I did manifest myself a little workspace to have within my room. So I'm no longer recording in front of my entryway that has a lot of beautiful natural light. Um, I may change back, I don't know. That is not the story I'm sharing with you here. So I was going to use my phone to use the app that you can actually access the group and the workshops and the level up library that holds all the workshops, as well as all the extra little bonuses like my manifestation musings, etc., that I do within the Cheat Code Academy. Maybe I'll do a little screen record and put that here while I'm waffling on about why I can't show you that when I can. Okay, the story goes. So, last night there were two people talking outside my room for a while at around 2:30 a.m. One was jet lagged and couldn't sleep. The other had gone to Kuala Lumpur and re-entered Bali. I hope I'm saying that right. Kuala Lumpur in a day to activate another visa on arrival to stay for another 30 days. I couldn't hear clearly what they were saying. I found out today that one of the girls I was talking to was one of those people from last night when I told her that I manifested them to go to bed. Here's what I did. So the point of me saying that was I learned all that information when I told her that this whole story about how I manifested them to go to bed. And she was like, oh, that was us. And this is why we were up at that time. At first, I started to get pissed off, lol, but then I just imagined slash visualized, not clearly because I didn't know exactly who was outside, the female saying or thinking, well, I think it's time for bed. Then I got okay with them potentially not stopping talking right away. A few minutes later, I realized I couldn't hear the voices anymore. I was telling this girl the story, and she said it was her and another guy who was new to the villa, that he was jet lagged, and all the things above that I had mentioned about her going to Kuala Lumpur, etc. And she said, did you hear me say I was going to put my PJs on and go to bed? Feeling bad that I could hear them talking. I could only hear muffles of talking, but not clearly what was being said. So I didn't know last night that that was how the conversation ended before they went back to their own rooms. So I didn't know that the conversation ended with a similar thing to what I had envisioned her saying. If I'm the version of me that's pissed off about them talking, then they could only be the versions of them that were talking in order for me to be pissed off. Okay, that's something to note. To clarify, imagining her saying something about it being time for bed was not to control the how. The ending of the conversation was the choice. So I just decided the conversation was going to end and they were going to go to bed. The visualization was a way for me to feel the end of that conversation to make it easier to detach, as opposed to angrily thinking, when is this fucking conversation going to end? Anyway, I just thought I'd share, and then I signed it off as I usually do. Cheers, Cerise Self Agency and Manifestation Mentor. So it wasn't the visualization that manifested, right? It was the choice of it happening and then me detaching from it. The visualization just helped me to do that. Now, I think Bashar talks about these things all being permission slips to have what you want. So they're essentially helping me to allow the manifestation to happen instead of me feeling like I'm controlling it. So when you go into affirming, scripting, inner conversations, visualizing, whatever it might be. And your tool of choice should always depend as well on what feels best for you to do. I don't generally visualize, and I didn't decide in that moment, okay, I'm going to visualize that this is how it ends, and then I'm going to go to sleep, try to go to sleep or just detach from it or anything like that. I actually just kind of moved naturally into visualizing it and then not being angry anymore. And as soon as I wasn't angry anymore, I found it easier to, like, the idea of getting back to sleep felt easier. And just as I was kind of drifting back off to sleep is when I kind of tuned back in to see if there was any talking still happening, and it wasn't. And that was literally within a few minutes. So if you want to call that an instant manifestation, that's pretty close to instant. I didn't really care how the conversation ended. I wasn't visualizing the conversation ending in a certain way to have it end in that particular way. It was literally just to get me into the feeling of the conversation has already ended and I can get back to sleep. And because I also probably naturally did some physiological sighs, I honestly can't remember, but they do happen pretty naturally for me now. So breath work is, one of my favorite ways to regulate my nervous system. And like I always say, when you do these things, they initially will feel like work because you're adding things to your practice, particularly my cheat codes, right? Nervous system regulation work, self-concept work, feel good things. They will feel like work because you're adding something to your practice, but they are how we naturally are when we're being the versions of us that are allowing things to happen. Those are things that we naturally just do. You naturally would just do things that feel good instead of waiting for someone else to become a version of them or for you to shift into a reality where they are the version of them already that does those things with you or does things that feel good to you for them to do, etc. You would naturally be doing things like physiological sighs. Children do physiological sighs without us teaching them how to do it. When they go, when they're upset. That is a physiological sigh. We're just doing it by choice by going, same thing. It's having the same effect. Somewhere along the way, we stop doing those things naturally and we start to hold onto and tense up when things are happening in a way that we feel out of control of. Okay, so doing the cheat codes are really just moving you back into your natural state of being so that you're reminding yourself who you are. And then the more you remind yourself who you are, the more you don't have to remind yourself who you are, the more you just start being who you inherently fucking are. And that's kind of what happened yesterday. Not yesterday, sorry, it was the other night. And I didn't go, okay, I'm going to visualize this now and this is the effect it's going to have and I'm trying to control the situation. But I've been practicing my cheat codes for a while. I've been talking about them for at least a year and a half, maybe 2 years. And again, I'll put the video on the end card of the toxic side of law of assumption, how I found my way to doing these things that then became my manifestation cheat codes without me intending for them to have anything to do with manifestation because I got burnt out from trying to control things with just my thoughts. So, the stripped back version of law of assumption that got me to that point of burnout where it's just flip every opposing thought, et cetera, starts moving away from Neville Goddard's teachings. And I'm not saying that I'm a Nevilleite or a Neville devotee. I'm not saying that his teachings are the be all end all, but I do like to explain what he meant by things when people are stripping it right back to simply obsessively affirm, doesn't matter how you feel, don't worry about feeling it real and all those things, and what he actually means by feeling it real. And that, what I did that night was feeling it real without trying to. I naturally just kind of did that. Again, I didn't really care how they stopped talking and how they went to bed. I just decided that they would. And I also decided that I was going to be able to get to sleep regardless of how. And I also decided I also just was, to make myself feel better, to feel it real, to choose a better feeling thought than why the fuck are they talking outside my room at 2:30 in the morning. I also said to myself, and it's easy for me to do here in Bali, living the way I'm living at the moment, but I knew that I didn't have to get up by a certain time. Do I like to get up by a certain time? Sure. I'm a bit of a creature of habit that way. I do like to have a bit of a routine, a loose routine, right? But ultimately, I could have slept in if I didn't get a good enough sleep. Does that mean that I like broken sleep? No, but it wasn't like the end of the world, right? We have to remember the things that we try to control a lot are tapping into our primal needs, right? On a primal level, you think that you not being able to get the thing that you want at that moment will lead to unsafety in some way, right? So when it comes to romantic relationships and friendships and things like that, the primal need that taps into is if I'm exiled from the community, which we used to rely on, everyone played their part to keep everyone else alive, right? People would hunt and gather, people would look after the children. It takes a village. The whole village would help look after all the children and things like that. Everyone played their part to keep the whole village alive, to keep the whole species going. And we have to remember that we have three levels of brain. Two are very primal levels, and the more modern parts of our brain that allow us to have intricate relationships and not just relationships for survival, as well as being able to imagine, that can be hijacked by the more primal parts of our brains. So I will do a video. I think no one's really said, I think I've asked in another video if you want me to delve more into that, let me know and I'll make a video on it. I'll probably just do it anyway because none of you have said it. And I think it's important information for you to know how these different circumstances that you feel so attached to lead back to a primal need that you can remind yourself of now. Well, actually, I have four walls. I have easier access to food than having to go and hunt for it or gather it myself in the wilderness where there are threats that could potentially be trying to eat me while I'm trying to eat them or eat other animals or whatever it might be. I think that would be a really helpful fucking video for you guys to watch. So I'm going to ask you again, let me know if you want a video on that, but I'm probably going to do it anyway. But you can also just interact with my videos. That would be great. If you get anything positive out of my videos, don't forget to like, share, comment, and or subscribe. It just helps push my videos out to more people. And if you'd like to comment below to help me with the algorithm, that is not an answer to that question, but you don't know what else to comment, just put a sparkle emoji because we're creating literal real life fucking magic on this channel. Feels good, doesn't it? So I don't know if I said it earlier, but the girl did confirm that the way the conversation wrapped up was similar to what I had put out there. Was it the exact words? No, because that's not how. I mean, it can, but you shouldn't need to control every little detail, micromanage your manifestation. Is this thing still on? It is. I didn't need her to think or say the exact thing that I said, right? Or thought was envisioning her saying, which was, I think I'm ready to go to bed now, or I think I'm going to get ready for bed, or something like that. But she did essentially say something along those lines because people are receiving your thoughts about them, what you think about them generally, but also specifically when it comes to things that you don't have an emotional attachment to. When you have an emotional attachment to, it's your more broader feeling and thoughts about those things, people, and situations that matter more. I didn't have an emotional attachment to this situation, but your thoughts are always going out and people are receiving them as their own ideas. So I said something and she received that and got it as her own idea of like, I think I'm going to get my PJs on and go to bed.